Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this regular public meeting of Dieppe City Council this February 24th, 2020. We start with our welcome. Dear colleagues, let's have the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to the wisdom. Thank you. So, call to order. Confirmation of quorum by clerk. Yes. Conflict of interests. Sorry, no declarations of conflicts of interest. We continue with the adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. We accept the agenda. All those in favor of the resolution, no questions. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. Item 7, presentations, inquiries. But we're going to start with 7.1, inquiries by council members to Kodiak Regional RCMP. Ladies and gentlemen, questions? Oh, they're lambs tonight. They're like lambs. So, yeah, they kind of didn't do any harm last week either. I don't understand what's going on. Oh, because they know I can be mean. I'm half deaf, I'm sorry. So, that being said, if there are no other questions, do you have any comments or any information that would you like to share with us? No, nothing in particular, thank you. Have we had the opportunity to discuss the file we're supposed to contact? No, we'll call him tomorrow. Okay. You have a question, Monsieur Brideau? Yes? Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to know, on Virginia Street, I have complaints since last year that there are transactions that are kind of suspected transactions on a specific property. The people in the neighborhood are very anxious. They're very discouraged by what they see going on, cars coming in, going out. And what I'd like to know is, do you have knowledge of this file on Virginia Street? I've already brought it to council because I don't want to name any names. Well, maybe we can give the information to the CEO, and then he can contact the RCMP. Yeah, maybe he should, because personally I have no knowledge of this file, but I'd really like to hear about it more. Well, because at the time, it was Mr. Le Breton, so I just want to make sure that there's going to be follow-ups on that. People are getting kind of angry. She was saying that what is going on is intolerable. Cars coming into my yard because she's the neighbor, and and this is during the night. So I mean, it's not. Don't feel safe. They live through that, and they're witnessing this on the other side of the street. It's an elderly couple, and they also are despaired with the situation. So, that being said, our CEO will contact you. Thank you. Thank you. If there's no one else, we're going to continue with the public hearing, the rezoning application. Mr. Frenette, good evening. Mr. Mayor, members of council. So, good evening. As mentioned, tonight is the public hearing for a rezoning on Amiro Lafayette. As usual, we're going to talk about the timelines of the critical dates, and also we're going to be mentioning a little bit something about the amendments that are suggested to the bylaw. So, give you context, we came to the Municipal Council on 27th of January. It was to set the public hearing date. The 3rd of February, there was a notice on the website of the town. We also send letters to neighbors within a 100-meter radius to explain, give you an idea to whom we sent that. Following the request, we asked the proponent to meet the immediate neighbor because we knew that there were possible nuisances, so we wanted there to be a meeting that they could talk things over. And as a matter of fact, we received notice from the neighbors that they are in favor of the project as such, but they want to make sure that the buffer zones will be respected. So I believe that things will be done to minimize the impact of the parking area. So the location of the project, as you can see, it's the land identified there. It's surrounded by a blue line, Amiro and Lafayette. The house that you see is demolished. This is the most recent aerial photograph that we can have. So the house was demolished. The project as such is for a 35-unit multi-family dwelling. So we're going from R1 to R3, which is medium density. It was suggested at 4 stories. We brought it down to 3 stories. The height that is being suggested is 13.3 meters. So you have renderings. It gives you an idea of what it could look like. The next slide is the zone where the letters were sent within the 100-meter radius. I think it's important to mention that in this sector there's mixed zoning. There's a mixed density on Lafayette. Council adopted a zoning it was amended last year for multifamily buildings with more density, with approximately 40 units. On the other side also, the street, there's a medium to high density area. So within the area, there's a fairly average to high density, depending on where we're at exactly. The next important dates, as you know, is to get the recommendations from the Planning Advisory Committee. That'll be the 18th of March on 2020, and then Council will be able to make a decision at the Council meeting on the 14th of April 2020, following the recommendation. So that puts an end to my presentation. Thank you. Yes, I think, Mr. CEO, there have been communications on this topic. Yes. So we received the correspondence sent to the clerk for bylaw Z10 2017, the 24th of February 21. My husband and I have been living on the lot next to the 1295 Amiro Street for 35 years. We really like our area next to the marsh and the trail that we use on a daily basis. We've met Dr. Nash Itili, who showed us their plan. They assured us that they will be working with us to keep some green spaces between the two properties. We support the project and we feel confident that we'll be able to enjoy our property in all intimacy. Patty Blanchard and Marc Baudouin. That's the correspondence concerning this rezoning application. Thank you. questions, Monsieur Alain? Yeah, just to come back. Why did we permit 4 stories? Once again, here the 4 stories. When we have requests, we try to see what's in the sector, and we try to minimize the impact of nuisance. So talking with the promoter, he was aware of the first proposal was maybe too high for this sector because there are no other buildings as tall as that. So it's still a fairly small building where we look at, we have row houses, we have single family, 1-story buildings, and then maybe over the last 35 years we've seen more. So that this type of building will be integrated more easily into the environment. So this is following discussions with the promoter. The apartment block that we approved on the Twig, that's going to be done this year too. On Lafayette, yes, we have talks with the promoter, and he says he wants to develop this year. I know last year he was supposed to do it last year, but the last discussion I had with him, it should be for this year. Thank you, Monsieur Gaudet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question of considering the size, did the owner maybe think of maybe having an underground parking to kind of reduce his parking imprint? We're in the sector of the municipality where the land permits out surface parking. We have to remember here that we have a building that is a 3-story building. It's very expensive. Underground parking is very expensive. According to the studies, we're talking about $35,000 per spot versus $5,000 or $6,000 per surface spot. Is it mentioned that whether inside the building there are 3 bedrooms, multifamily? I don't have the information. We can check. Maybe it's discussions that occurred between Alexandre and Monsieur Comtois, but generally speaking, because that is what we're missing here. It's units where families can settle, especially when we have people from other countries. There's no room really for 2 or 3 children families. So maybe it's something that should be encouraged to do. Thank you. Monsieur Thibodeau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of my questions was the same one as Mr. Gaudet. See if they're going to be building 3 bedrooms. My question is on the location of the project. We see that the land, the trail goes through that piece of land. Is that going to be something going to be done about that trail? Are you talking about this? Yes. Yeah, we'll have to look into it. The aerial photos that we have here don't give us necessarily the limits of the lot at scale, so it would be difficult to evaluate. I can't tell you right now. All right, thank you. Thank you, Madame Arsenault. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Lafayette, there are going to be approximately 40 units, and now we're going to have 35 more units. On the other side of the road, how many are we going to have? They're going to be developing there? Or? So I was wondering, in a radius, we're going to have how many people? Because it's going to be fairly dense. That's some information that we can give you. But on the other side, zoning permits what there is over there. And Monsieur Richard is not here tonight, but there's a bus stop there on the other side of Mare. So it's a population that we can serve with Kodiak Transpo. All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you. No other question? Thank you, Monsieur Frenette, for the presentation, and we go to the next item. Questions by members of the public, of our numerous public tonight. Once again, no questions from our numerous public here. Item 9, adoption of minutes, regular council meeting held on February 10th, 2020. Thibodeau, Alain on the question. No questions. So all those in favor of the adoption of the agenda of the 10th of February, signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. So the minutes of the 10th of February are accepted as presented. Now we go to items under the 10, motions, memorandums, and nominations. 10.1, administration. Monsieur Melanson. Mike, I thought you were on. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Last year, we were asked to develop a pilot project with the Greater Moncton Music Festival. So this event was not part in the funding that we would give. So this is for a second year. You've asked us to assess things over 3 years. So it's the renewal of this partnerships, which is a contribution of $500 to support the youth from Dieppe who win awards at the senior or junior galas. So this is for the signing of this and partnership. For the reading of the motion, Madame Arsenault. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council authorized the municipal signing officers to sign the partnership agreement between the City of Dieppe and the Greater Moncton Music Festival for the 2019 edition, which includes a financial commitment in the amount of $500, and further authorize that this expenditure be defrayed from account number 1-2-20-28-2310, General Operating Budget, Funding to Organizations and Grants. So moved, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Arsenault, seconded by Councillor Leblanc on the question. No question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried as presented. 10.2, Engineering Tender Award. Thank you. Yes, you have here a contract for Modern Construction Limited, $312,140, and also for engineering services, EXP services, $47,000 plus HST, to replace the 3 pedestrian traffic signals, safety rules. They already have crosswalks are going to be modified in 2020, and the 4th one, crosswalk, has been identified at Dieppe and Engelhart, where the buses and the shuttles cross one another. So it was identified for 2020, so this is going to be set up for intersections for pedestrians. Thank you for the reading of the resolution, Monsieur Thibodeau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council award the tender of the new 2020 pedestrian traffic signals project to the lowest bidder, Modern Construction 1983 Limited, at the cost of $312,140 plus HST. Authorize EXP Services, Inc. to undertake engineering services relating to said project at the cost of $47,000 plus HST, and further authorize these expenditures be defrayed from account number 3-3-35 58-7654 General Capital Budget Pedestrian Crossing. That Council authorized a budget transfer in the amount of $325,000 from account number 7-4-20-12-8920 General Capital Reserve Fund to account number 3-3-35-58-7654 General Capital Budget Pedestrian Crossing. So moved, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. Monsieur Alain. Thank you very much. Mr. City Manager, are we sure that the people who bidded, I mean, we see a difference of approximately $100,000 from one bidder to another. So that's my first question. My second question is the pedestrian crosswalks. We have a lot of requests for pedestrian crosswalks all across the city. Could we have a list of possible pedestrian crossings that we've talked about over the last 4 years, and to see if there have been assessments done, evaluations? Because over the last 4 years that I've been here, I haven't heard anything. Engelhart, I'm not saying I would do it every morning, and then it's a pedestrian crosswalk. I'm not saying that it's a good decision for the citizens, especially for the people who take the bus. But I'd like to have a list to find out if analyses have been made. Thank you. Yes. Well, first thing we've received in the call. We received 4 bidders. Modern Construction was the lowest bidder. Okay, there has to be a certain norm and standards that have to be respected. So these were developed. There's going to be follow-ups. There have been follow-ups. There are going to be follow-ups of the installations of these crosswalks. We can give you a list of others which have been identified, but these have been considered very important with Boulevard Dieppe, with the growing traffic. 2 schools that have been set up along Dieppe Boulevard at Belfort, and so it's becoming very busy, and it was becoming very difficult to cross for pedestrians to go to the public transport stop. So it was brought forth to council twice, I believe. Maybe you were absent, but for the question of the list, they definitely will give something to all members of council. I know that there was a business person who had come here, and he had mentioned it, and he'd raised the point, and it's a crosswalk that will be necessary to be there with the business. I'd like to know about the assessments that have been made. We had made an assessment. We had even changed the bus route. We had done it on the other side to make sure that the door was on the other side. There was a question of sidewalks going towards the co-op. So there were a lot of things that complicated the situation, especially the fact that the sidewalk wasn't on the bus side. Public transport, engineering, transpo, we looked at all the options before coming up with this one. I mean, I've seen it, yes, and it was a very good crosswalk, a good decision. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madame Arsenault. Mr. Mayor, so if I understand, the blinking lights will be converted to a signal. It's a Champlain, where there's a community college at the crosswalk, at Tim Hortons, also at 580, Mathieu Martin. And the other one is at Louis Street. Yes, it's on Amiro. And the fourth one that you added is going to be Boulevard Dieppe. Okay, fantastic. It's going to have a positive impact. It's maybe going to slow down the traffic and create some gaps, so that will give people the opportunity to come into Dieppe Boulevard in all safety. Yes. Monsieur Gaudet, I would like to mention that in the city of Moncton, on Elmwood, there are crosswalks. What I noticed is that when the person presses on the button to cross, it blinks. There are lights next to the road that blink and the light is strong, so it attracts the eyes. So I'm wondering sometimes if on Amiro we shouldn't maybe consider this type of blinking lights, because people sometimes don't realize that the light changes. So maybe it would be a good idea to look into those lights. They're fairly lights. Sorry, just here, these are going to be red lights. They're going to complete stop for traffic. So it's not blinking yellow. Those places where we identified. So somebody from engineering is taking notes, and if we can always improve the situation for our citizens, so much the better. Thank you, Mr. Gaudet. Mr. Brideau, same question on Champlain. At Mathieu Martin, Tim Horn, it's the same thing. These are red lights. Yeah, because I go through there every day, and I'm saying every time, Jesus, a kid is going to get hit somewhere because their speed. Yeah, just to bring people back, we're talking about the density of traffic. That was the result of the study, because the blinking lights didn't meet the norms, the Canadian norms, because of the density of traffic there. So thank you. Now we've had the question. We can ask the whole question. All those in favor of resolution, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Resolution is carried as presented, which brings us to item 10.3.1, Planning and Development. We received a request for a tentative plan for Champlain subdivision. We sent that file to the Planning Advisory Council Committee, and the recommendation is to accept the tentative plan. So basically, we'll be setting aside lands for public purposes, and we'll be establishing a local government easement, because within that space of public purposes, it's our trail that's in there, and we also have sewer lines under there, so it's to protect both those aspects. So it's approval and to develop, to continue talks with the developers. Reading of the resolution, Monsieur Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council accept the Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation relating to the acceptance of the Champlain Subdivision Tentative Plan, which provides for the setting aside of land for public purposes and establishes a local government easement. So moved. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Arsenault on the question. No questions? All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. And that brings us to municipal bylaws. None scheduled for tonight. Item 12, notices of motion. We've gone almost 3 years with no notices of motion. I think we're going to... 13, inquiries and announcements by members of council. I think that we start on the left. Monsieur Alain. Once again, it's our youth who are in the forefront. I want to congratulate the Luc Cabinet hockey tournaments, Pee Wee, Adam for the recreational teams. There was activity in our arenas. That is something else. Our stars of Monsieur Martin went through to the first round. They're going to be playing against the Northern Conference in the next weeks. Congratulations to Josiane Como, La Voix, yesterday. And all my best wishes to the Thériault family, who are going through challenges that are not the norm, as we would say. And Samuel, I wish good luck. The whole community is behind you, Sam, and we're going to make sure that you come back to school by the end of the year. Madame Arsenault, Mr. Mayor, just say that we had a beautiful family day. Monday it was really great, and the skating on the oval was a beautiful sight, spectacular, to see so many happy people. And I wanted to wish a good March holiday safely. Summer's coming around. Thank you, Monsieur Thibodeau. Nothing for me tonight. Thank you, Monsieur Brideau. I have nothing tonight. Oh, it took a while for it to come out, but it came out. Then, Monsieur Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Maire. I'd like to wish good luck to the Matadors who are starting the quarterfinals in Bouctouche against Clément Cormier. And the second game will be at AGL Tuesday night. Nothing for me. Monsieur Gaudet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to note that I was at the Acadie Games breakfast. We had a presentation by a Paralympic skier, Louis Fortin. It was a very inspiring presentation, and I recommend I would suggest that schools and youth houses ask him to come talk about his career, because it's a very interesting career. Secondly, I'd like to congratulate Memram Cook and Bouctouche for having won the possibility to host the Acadie Games. I believe this year it's in Saint-Jean. So congratulations to Bouctouche and Memram Cook, these two places, for having accepted and to promote the Acadie Games. And once again, with the Acadie Games, I would like to congratulate Normand Légère for having published his book, 40 Years of Acadie Games. I've seen the book. It's a book that shows all the activities of the Acadie Games, a lot of pictures from actually the first year. Normand is a well-known photographer in the area. You see him everywhere in the arenas or in sports activities. He's a former staff of the city of Dieppe. So congratulations, Normand, for your work. I hope you sell many of those books. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, everybody, and a good evening to all. And go, Aigle Bleu, go.